Are you coming back to school with me? We could have done it all so easily.
Hi, my name is Craig Thompson-Wood. I'm your host on Teaching with Board Games, kicking it old school again today with the classic Monopoly. Now, while I'm reviewing the game Monopoly, and this one is obviously not named Monopoly, it is, of course, one of the very many spin-offs of Monopoly, this being Canadaopoly, because it's what I found. I found this in a thrift store, and I thought, I don't own a copy of Monopoly currently, so I might as well have one in my collection. So I picked up this one. Very Canadian theme to it. I also just want to say as a brief introduction to this that the reason I'm doing the Monopoly today is I was going to do Monopoly last month and was looking into the aspects of learning. I've heard of how people are using it in different ways to promote learning in their classrooms, and what I found was amazing. There's a lot of different ways people are using it. So rather than doing a disservice and trying to really cram that all into one short episode, I'm going to do this month Monopoly May, and I'm going to be starting off by reviewing Monopoly just as itself, as a game that you just take and play as is in a classroom or at home. What do I think of it? Following that, in the following weeks this month, I'm going to look at different ways people are using Monopoly in order to teach different concepts and ideas in their classroom. So, without any further build up, let's take it right to the report card. So in looking at the number of players for Monopoly, I'm going to give it a B+. It plays between 2 to 6 players. My standard for a B is 2 to 4 players, so going up to 6, I'll give it the B+. Looking at the learning for Monopoly, the learning for the base game of Monopoly, I'm going to give it a B+. There is a lot that's going on here in terms of reading the cards that you're getting as you move around the board. You have the rolling of the dice, which helps to lead to those subitization and learning of the numbers and the quick addition of those numbers on 2 dice, what they're equaling. And of course then the whole thing around money, counting your money, making change, and the dreaded tax, luxury tax, where you have to pay like a certain percentage of your total income to the taxes. So that is, with all those things going on, I just feel that there's a lot to this, which is I think why some people will gravitate to this and say, oh well, look, I'm learning Monopoly. Sure enough, there is. There's a fair amount of learning in here, and that's why I give it the B+. But let's look at the other categories. For fun for this game, I'm going to give it a D-. It's a D- for me because I'm not going to say it's completely unplayable. There's nothing fun about it. I mean, I used to love Monopoly. I used to say it was my favorite game, but there is just a lot of negativity attached around this game. I mean, even in getting prepared for this video and looking up some things, I thought, what is the most contentious board game out there? Which one causes the most fights? Which one causes the most crying? And in every list I looked up, this was the culprit. While I am aware of other games that are out there, for example, there's a game called Diplomacy, which is known as the Friendship Ender. It is a very cutthroat, ruthless game, and one I've never played for the simple fact that it is so makes such deep rifts in people's relationships. It really does. So Monopoly seems pale by comparison, but given the popularity of Monopoly, how many people know about Monopoly compared to Diplomacy, it's just one that I think people maybe should be a little bit more aware of. I mean, it's not one that tends to be full of good feelings and fun times, even though it's such a popular game. So if this is part of the reason why some people tend to steer away from board games because they have memories of games like this, then it's not really doing a service to the board game industry and to board games as an educational tool. So D-. For time, I'm going to give the game a C-. The C- is kind of conditional, honestly, because sometimes people think about Monopoly, they think, oh, the game just never stops. It keeps going on and never ends. And that's because somehow over the years, different sort of house rules or variations on the rules have been introduced and accepted as canon, as official rules of the game. For example, when you pay money to something, you put it onto the free parking, and if you ever land on the free parking space, then you gather all that money. That doesn't exist as a rule. And so if that is taken out, then apparently the game does go faster. I have to admit, I've never played it the other way. I mean, it's been a long time since I played Monopoly, and I'd heard about this one, not recently, but recent enough that it was after the time I'd stopped playing Monopoly. So I just think that while it's still not going to be a super quick game, while I think it's not going to be a game that lasts forever, like some of the games of Monopoly could have, it's also not a game which is going to be over very quickly. If this is something you're doing in the classroom, as I said, as a base game, then I don't think it's one that you're going to be finishing in a period or even 2 periods. Even in a board game club before and after school, it's going to be it might be a little bit time consuming for that. So a game at home perhaps, and so that would have something you consider. But it's going to be, in my mind, not a quick game, but certainly not the long game that a lot of people tend to believe that it is. For cost, again, looking at it as a base game, I'm going to give it a C. I give it a C because while you can probably find it very cheap, and I'm sure there's cheap editions out there. I mean, I know I've seen crazy things like a Game of Thrones edition of Monopoly. It was like $75 to $100 or something. That's just outrageous. I would never pay that much for a game of Monopoly. And maybe if you're a collector and that's a limited edition or something, then that's up to you. But I mean, for me personally, no. So, you can do like I did. You can find these in thrift stores. There's always copies of Monopolies in thrift stores and everything. Probably find cheap copies of the base game and stuff from things like Walmart, or your local game shop probably has inexpensive copies there. The point being then too is just how much play are you going to get out of it. If it's a game, like I said, that's really not a lot of fun, going to cause problems, going to be difficult to get to the table, then perhaps not. Now, I know there's people out there who love Monopoly, who think Monopoly is great, and they play it all the time. And if you're one of those people, then great, more power to you. But I think for the most people, it's just, like I say, contentious enough that it's not going to hit the table often. All right, let me take it to the table, and I'll show you how this game is played. So I'm not going to do an extensive how to play Monopoly video right now. I mean, I think a lot of people already know how to play, and if you don't know how to play, there's other videos out there which are doing a great job of teaching you how to play, so I'm not going to try to cram that kind of video into the middle of this other video that I'm doing. Just giving you a quick sense and maybe a little bit of appreciation for the, how cute this Canada-opoly is. I love the things they've done to pay attention to the fact that, a little, like for tokens, you got a maple leaf, you have a Canada goose, the Skylon Tower, a beaver, a hockey stick. So I thought that was kind of neat, as well as the things around the board: Magnetic Hill, Big Nickel, Meech Lake, Okanagan. Very Canadian places for sure. So every player, says you start in the middle here, and you're going to take turns. Everybody rolls the highest. We'll just say Skylon goes first. I mean, you're supposed to roll off to see who's going to go first. So Skylon rolls a 2. So they go to the A, and they take one of the A cards. So they have the A and Z. Okay, it's from A to Z. So you're in the mood to sing Advance to O Canada. So that means this player goes all the way around here to the O Canada space. Now, interesting, I got to the O Canada space. Now, what's interesting about the O Canada space with this one, and looking at the official rules of the Canada-opoly, is it breaks the rules, because normally people who land here aren't supposed to get whatever money's in the middle. But now with this one, it says you do. And that's one of the things that people are saying really bogs down a game of Monopoly. That was never the rule, but now in these set of rules, that's actually officially a rule. So it is what it is. But in this case, there's nothing there in the middle. But because they rolled doubles, they would go again, and they get 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They get a moose thing here. Now, so they can buy the moose. This is like in Monopoly would be the utilities. So they look for the moose here. Oh, I got more in the box still. So you're looking for the moose. Okay, so they can buy the moose. Okay, and they would pay $175. Now, every player is starting off with $1,630, according to this, in a set denomination, as it explains in the rules. So this player can buy this one, and if they choose not to, then other players can then bid on it. So somebody is going to get that one way or another, unless nobody bids on it, but I couldn't imagine why you wouldn't. So now that they stopped rolling doubles, the next player goes, and they roll a 3. So we'll say the beaver goes to the big nickel, And if they don't buy the big nickel, then somebody else can buy the big nickel. Beaver didn't roll doubles, so next player goes. They roll a 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So just knowing that you have 10, it can start to become a thing where you just, I know I can move there, I can buy that 1. And the next player goes 5. So going halfway, they go to the territories here, which is halfway, you can tell because it's the crease. And they can buy that one, and so on. So every players are going around, you're collecting your money. When you come back to the face-off square, which is the beginning here, then that is, you're collecting your $200, and away you go again on to the next thing. Instead of going to prison like you do in regular Monopoly, being Canada-opoly, you go, there's a snowstorm you get stuck in. And yeah, you just keep going around buying the properties. Once you have a set of all the properties, then you can start to build houses, make it more valuable, make other players go bankrupt faster, which breaks their hearts and causes a fight. And that is how you play Canada-opoly. So as I said, Monopoly is a base game. I mean, it's really old. It started off as called the Landlord's Game. I think it was started back in the late 1800s, early 1900s. I'll put in the comments below, across the bottom of the screen right now, exactly when it came out. But it's an old game, and it shows its age. The mechanics are just simply roll and move. You do what it says. There's decisions to be made in terms of buying properties, selling properties, mortgaging properties, trading with other players, etc. But overall, there's better games out there. If there's games that you know, like I did the one with Scrabble, games that are better than Scrabble. If you like Monopoly and the things Monopoly does, I'll maybe do an episode where I talk about games which are similar to Monopoly, but better than Monopoly. But enough of that for now. As I'm saying, as a game on its own, I think this is a hard pass for me. I probably would be reluctant to play it again. I might, with the right group of people or something, in the right situation, maybe, but it's certainly never one I'm going to be asking to play. So just to reiterate the point of why I'm doing this then is, as I said, looking at this game as a base game, I don't think it's great as a base game. But if you look at how people are using the base game to teach different concepts, I think it has the potential. So please stay tuned to next week when you see the episodes beginning on how to use Monopoly in creative ways to teach different types of topics. So if you are new to the channel, then what I'm doing is I'm putting out content on a weekly basis around topics of gamification, game-based learning, all about how we can use games and gamification to make learning more fun, more interesting, more applicable, so we can apply our learning to something that's actually happening within the game. As Monopoly is a good example of that, as I'll be showing in the future weeks. If this sounds good to you, then please do remember to hit the like and subscribe button down below, even the little bell icon next there. That'll tell you when new content is coming out, which I said is on a weekly basis. If you have any ideas for content you might like to see on the channel, be it games you might like reviewed or ideas for gamification or topics you want to discuss, then leave me that message below too, because I love to hear from the viewers as it helps me to give you relevant content. And that is going to wrap it up for today's episode. Until next time, I'm Craig Thompson-Wood, your host on Teaching with Board Games, saying thanks for coming to the classroom.
Are you coming back to school with me? We could have done it all so easily.
And if you're one of those people